So I'm pretty sure I've mentioned a couple times on here that I've walked into my local Foot Locker, JD, whatever, and stumbled onto certain releases that are already been resold, right, for retail. I've also mentioned that when I've seen people talking about reselling a pair, I'll go to my local Foot Locker or JD to see if they've got them there or when they're coming in, right? And the reason for that is I'm lucky enough to live somewhere that isn't as crazy as, say, Sydney, Melbourne, that sort of thing, right? I live in Newcastle. It's a little bit more regional, a little bit more rural. We got a lot less population. So it's pretty easy to cop shoes if we get them. Very recently, one of the homies, he's a big supporter of this channel. He's a producer for the likes of Mitchos the Menace. I seen that he managed to cop some Lightning 4s and it looked like they were in a Foot Locker bag, and I'm like, how? And he's like, dude, I just went... Right, so I'd actually filmed this maybe a week or so ago, and I'd actually forgotten to hit up Blake initially first. And I hit him up and I said, hey, I want to do this video and mention what you did, mention a couple of things, and I said, can I mention the store directly, or would you rather keep that little bit on the low and we'd be a little bit more generalized with it? He wanted to keep it on the low, so we're going to be generalized with it. He's out in West Sydney. This isn't one of the main ones in West Sydney. So a smaller shop out in West Sydney, a smaller Foot Locker. So yeah, we'll be vague. We're not going to say what it is, but you can probably piece it together if you want. I'd say there's 3 main places in West Sydney where there's a Foot Locker, although Parramatta's got fucking 2 in the one centre, to be fair. But yeah, let's say there's 3 main ones, so outside of those 3 main ones, maybe it's one of them. And they were sitting there on shelf. They had a bunch of sizes. Now this is something that was a special release. It didn't make it past the bot tent, sold out, all that. Actually no, I think they were released within the new raffle system. So, but all the raffles, like I went in a bunch of raffles for them, not heaps. I went into a couple, to be fair, because I wasn't super keen on them, but I didn't win. I generally put that down to, on something like that, they're a little bit more hype than maybe I thought they were. I know back in the day they were super hype because there was a little bit more exclusivity to them. This time it was more of a GR type release. Well, not GR, but you know what I mean. A little bit easier to get. They're in Foot Lockers. But yeah, he said he's been going to... Again, we're being vague. We're not going to say where it is, but yeah. You get it. You get it. Get out there in the world. Lately, and I don't know exactly where he is. I know he's out in West Sydney, so maybe he's not going to one of the main Foot Lockers, but that one's just that little bit outside the grid, and he's able to pick up Jordans for retail. Just walking in store, seeing something you like, and picking it up. Damn, that makes me feel nostalgic. And it reminds me of a time when I got my Royal One lows, where again, seeing them online, people reselling them, and I'm like, hey, when do these drop? And you know, people hitting you up with the, oh, if you know, you know type shit. And then I was like, alright, cool, whatever. Stumbled into my local Foot Locker. They had them, but not in my size. They're like, hey, we can order them from another store for you. I'm like, oh, word? Can I get 2? At that time, you could. Or I believe they just put in place where you can't buy 2. I can't remember because they allowed me to do it, but only 1 pair came. But the shoes had come from Frankston, which is in Victoria, outskirts of Melbourne, right? If that same shoe was sitting at, within Melbourne CBD, sells out every day of the week, right? Probably sells out that day. Because it's at Frankston, which is a little bit outside of the main hub, it was sitting there. You gotta look at, say, the map of Foot Locker around Australia. They're everywhere. They're not just in your main hubs now. So if something like that is a GR release or a Dunk or something, you're more than likely going to get it at there rather than a main one. If they get the stock, you're more than likely going to stumble onto it just by walking in. I remember when the Black Cement 3s dropped, I managed to get them on a crazy refresh battle on Nike. Now the refresh battle doesn't happen. It's like a raffle system. It is what it is. I couldn't go physically into the store at Foot Locker because they were just a GR release at all Foot Lockers, even though I had them in hand the night before. The Thursday night before the Saturday release. I went in there, the guy at Foot Locker I knew, he showed them to me, I had them in hand. I'm like, man, anyway I can get them put aside, I can give you some extra coin to buy them now, you process the sale on the day. Wasn't having it. I rang them at, say, 1 o'clock when I finished to see if they had any left, and they were like, nah, we sold out at like 11. Damn. So I just so happened to be going to the Foot Locker at East Maitland, which again, like, Newcastle's like your main sort of hub of this type area. East Maitland's a little bit on the outskirts, a little bit more regional than even Newcastle. And they had Black Cement 3s on the wall still, which blew my mind. But it was, they were saying, oh, it was only 1 or 2 pairs and they were all small sizes. But then, like, I'm looking behind the counter and I'm like, hey, that's a pair of 10.5s. And they're like, oh yeah, they're held for someone. I'm like, hey, isn't like your thing, you can't hold sneakers up until a week or whatever? Like, oh yeah, I'm like, cause I will buy them right now. I got the money, I'll pay it. Nah, won't do it. They were wrong. They should have done that, but I already had the pair from Nike coming, so I wasn't too mad about it. But the main focal point on this is to say that certain areas are gonna sell out of things differently, right? So where Blake got the Lightning 4s, that's more of like a Air Max TN sort of area. Newcastle's fairly similar. For years, they didn't even have any Jordan. Like, I remember them getting a Jordan hat in, like a mesh type hat, which I think I still got. Apparently I don't still have it, and I don't really throw anything away, so here's what it is. But I remember seeing a hat and I was stoked. And then, you know, one time I'd see a t-shirt and I was stoked. For whatever reason, I'd say to them, hey, how come you don't get any Jordan clothing or shoes or whatever? They're like, it'll get stolen. That's what they said to me. I don't know if it was more so there was no market for it or whatever, but gradually as time went on, the internet becomes more a part of our lives and fashions are more centralized. Stores will get very much the same sort of stuff, but you also have different tier of stores that will get different stuff, better stuff. But if you're in one of these regional areas, it's not a bad idea to check in with your local Foot Locker, local JD Sports, whatever you got, like every couple of days. Can be taxing, can be tiresome. Sometimes you don't have the time for that. That's cool. But I'll be checking in there at least once a week, especially if there's something you've seen online that's reselling already. If it's like a GR type thing, like a mid, like a Dunk low or an Air Jordan 1 low, even TNs, there's a good chance it's sitting at your local, especially within that first week or so. Now, I haven't been able to walk into a store for a while because they couldn't contain COVID down in Sydney. They made their way up here and then we copped it. We had hardly any cases, but we're still locked down. My specific suburb that I live in has never had a case, but it is what it is. I had previous medical history that suggested it may not be a good idea for me to get the jab. Out of nowhere, my doctor changed his mind and I've had my first jab now, hopefully get my second. So we're going to be getting out in the world a little bit more content out in the real world, doing some collection showcases, going into stores, that sort of thing. And I'll be spending a lot more because I'll be honest, like, I definitely get releases online, but I probably spend more in store. There's nothing better to me than walking into your local sneaker store and just stumbling across something and go, man, I need that. I need to get that. And it's a lot better than paying resale, yeah? So, what you need to do, get up, go to the shops, check out your local Foot Locker. Say there's one close, check if there's another one like 10-20 k's down the road that maybe is in a shopping centre that's not as big, not as good. Chances are they've got a few more releases just sitting there. The one at East Maitland that I mentioned, the Black Cement 3s, that wasn't the last time that sort of story happened. I remember going into my local one, seeing these, and going, hey, you got them in my size? And they're like, nah. I'm like, oh, that sucks. They're like, hey, let us see if there's any in any other stores. Maybe we can order them in for you. And then they're like, hey, they're at East Maitland. I'm like, oh yeah? What time is it? I can probably make it. To be fair, in order to make it before they closed, and I just made it, I ended up with a speeding fine. So, not the best. But they only had like small sizes left. They'd been there for like a week, maybe 2 weeks at my local. But I go to the one that's a little bit out of the way. They got them in my size. When I set out to make this channel, the Instagram page and everything, for me it is all about helping fellow sneakerheads and collectors. So that's what this video we're doing. Just a little bit of information can go a long way. Let us know what surprise cops you've come across. Maybe you've been out of town, maybe you've been on holidays. I remember going in, when I went to Melbourne, seeing things that I thought had already sold out, and then they're just sitting on shelves. Let us know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll be back with another episode of Crease Tea. Peace.